My name is Claire Monroe. I'm 26, and this room, the one with the soft hum of a server rack and the kind of morning light that turns drywall into silk, has saved my sanity more than once. When I signed for this little 3-bedroom at the end of a sleepy cul-de-sac, I didn't fall in love with the kitchen or the yard. I fell for the office. The previous owners had converted the garage, built-in shelves, acoustic panels, and a separate side entrance so clients could drop by without stepping over my shoes. For a software architect whose calendar lives in time zones, it was a dream, fastened in studs and screws. My parents lived 20 minutes away, Richard and Paula, practical and persuasive in equal measure. My sister Jenna is 22, finishing her marketing degree, the kind of charming that makes people forgive the first ask and the second one too. A week ago, she got engaged to Tyler Brooks, 24, polite to a fault. I was happy for them, until the family meeting. Mom called using her special occasion voice. "Swing by. We have the most wonderful idea." Their living room looked staged for a pitch, a glass dish of candy, printed Pinterest pages fanned across the coffee table, Dad perched forward like a CEO about to close. Jenna squeezed Tyler's hand and gave me that bright sister smile that always meant I was about to be volunteered for something. "Claire," Mom began, beaming, "we've figured out the perfect solution for Jenna's wedding planning." Dad slid in. "Planning is stressful. She needs a proper space. Good light, storage, quiet." Jenna inhaled, ready for her line. "Could I use your office for 6 months? It's ideal. The shelves, the separate entrance for vendors. I can make it a bridal hub." For a second, I thought I'd misheard. "You want me to move my entire workstation?" "Temporarily," Mom sang. "You can work anywhere with a laptop. Kitchen, bedroom, 6 months will fly." 6 months is half a year of 3 a.m. calls and angle testing my webcam so it doesn't catch a stack of dishes. It's losing the only door in my life that translates to do not disturb in a dialect even guilt can't argue with. I kept my voice even. That room is my job, my servers, my triple monitor rig, the whiteboard I live on. I can't just... Dad leaned forward, stern and fatherly. "Family helps family. When you needed textbook money, who helped you?" "I paid you back with interest," I said, too quick. "That's not the point," he replied, always a sign it was exactly the point. I offered solutions. All of them. I'd pay for a co-working pass near their house. I'd set up their basement, tables, lighting, a whole shelf for sample books. I'd even chip in toward a venue so she could rent a proper planning suite. Each idea got dismissed like a fly. "The ambiance," Jenna said, savoring the syllables. "It has to feel right." "What does feel right mean?" I asked. She showed me a vision board, blush curtains, a champagne cart, a neon cursive sign that read, "Bridal Brain." The back of my neck went cold. "You want to redecorate?" "Just for 6 months." Her eyes softened in that practiced pre-tear shimmer I remembered from childhood. I thought my big sister would want to make my wedding special. To his credit, Tyler looked uncomfortable. "Maybe there's another way." "Tyler," Jenna said without looking at him, "this is perfect." Dad crossed his arms like a verdict. Mom's smile sealed it. I stood slowly, as if the carpet had turned to glass. "I'm not agreeing to that." The silence that followed was syrupy, sweet, and suffocating. I drove home with a pulse in my ears and a headache forming behind my eyes. That night, Lucas Grant, my boyfriend, brewed tea and sat with me on the kitchen floor. "You're not crazy," he said, calm as a metronome. "You're allowed to have boundaries in your own house." For 10 minutes, I believed him more than the noise in my head. The next day, the campaign began. Mom's texts, each a new phrasing of "we're disappointed." Dad's calls about growing up and sacrifice. Jenna's Instagram stories, pastel backgrounds with white text, about how some people only care about money. I muted, blocked, and repeated a mantra I didn't quite believe. No is a complete sentence. 2 days later, I came back from a coffee shop, with nothing but caffeine and resolve, and noticed my office door, the one with the separate entrance by the driveway, sitting slightly ajar. My stomach dropped before I even saw them. Mom and Jenna, tape measure across the window. "How did you get in?" Mom didn't flinch. "Emergency key. We were just checking if the curtains should puddle on the floor." "Out," I said, because anything longer would end badly. Jenna's eyes filled on cue. "I just wanted to see the lighting." Mom tucked Jenna under her arm and turned to me with that look I'd seen on Landlords and Principals, anyone who believes they own the map. Don't be selfish, Claire. They reached the door. Then Jenna turned, smiled through the damp, and said, light as a feather, heavy as a brick, fine, but it doesn't change the nursery plan. I blinked. The what? After the wedding, she said, nodding at my whiteboard wall, Tyler and I will need a nursery. This room is perfect. We're planning to start trying right away. The floor didn't crack. It tilted. My office wasn't a temporary bridal suite anymore. It was being annexed into a life that wasn't mine. The shelves would hold diaper caddies, not spare SSDs. My whiteboard would trade data flows for feeding schedules. My desk would become a changing table in someone else's story. They left in a drift of perfume and soft moral superiority. I changed the locks that night. New deadbolt for the main door, upgraded cylinder for the office entrance. I ordered cameras, one on the driveway, one on the office door, one above the entry hall, like a quiet second pair of eyes. I told myself I was overreacting, even as I punched in the Wi-Fi password and watched live feeds bloom across my phone. Morning brought 47 messages in the family group chat. Aunts who hadn't liked a photo of mine in years found paragraphs about duty. Cousins offered peacemaking aphorisms soaked in judgment. Grandma Eleanor called, voice trembling. Honey, this breaks my heart, she said, and those words found a bruise under the armor. I promised to visit Sunday. Bring lemon squares. Talk like we used to when life was small and sugar-sweet. That afternoon, between a code review and a Zurich call, I pressed my palm against the warm office wall where sunlight made a square of gold and tried to decide whether I was defending a room or a version of myself. The line felt thinner than I wanted to admit. At dusk, Lucas dropped by with takeout. Eat, he said gently, then make a list. A list? Everything you'll do if they try again. Don't improvise angry. So I wrote 1. Locks changed. Done. 2. Cameras installed. Done. 3. If they enter again, warn in writing. 4. If they enter after that, call the police. 5. Offer alternatives one last time in writing. 6. Document everything. The list steadied me, an engineer's quiet spell against chaos. That night, the house slept. The office hummed. I cracked the window for a ribbon of cool air and stared at the camera feeds until the blue-white glow hurt. Even in the stillness, one sentence floated up like a buggy line of code I couldn't squash. This doesn't change the nursery plan. Plans like that pretend they're inevitable until no sounds like later, mine sounds like ours, and a locked door sounds like a dare to someone you love. I killed the lights and watched my world in 3 small frames: driveway, hallway, office door. Quiet, bordered, mine. For now. If I'd known that night would be the last time my house truly felt like mine, I would have stayed awake just to memorize the silence. At first, I thought changing the locks had fixed everything. Then the guilt campaign kicked into a higher gear. Mom started texting in full paragraphs about how family used to mean something. Dad left voicemails heavy with sighs and phrases like, "You're choosing walls over people." And Jenna, my newly engaged sister, took her campaign online. A pastel Instagram story with cursive text read, "When people you love only care about themselves." The comments poured in, friends and cousins calling her strong, graceful, selfless. I didn't comment. I didn't even look twice. Until the cameras caught movement at 1:12 a.m. 3 nights later. 2 figures, Mom and Jenna, standing outside my office window. Mom held a ladder, Jenna a flashlight in her mouth, arguing over who should climb first. It would have been funny if it hadn't been my house. I saved the footage, attached it to a message in the family group chat, and wrote, "This is breaking and entering. The next attempt will involve the police." The reply came almost instantly. Dad called, shouting before I even said hello. "You're threatening your own mother with jail? What's wrong with you?" I hung up. I didn't have the energy to explain boundaries to people who thought blood excused everything. The next morning, I woke up to 50 unread messages and 1 private text from Tyler, Jenna's fiancé. "Claire, can we meet? Alone, please." I hesitated but agreed. We met at a cafe near downtown where the hum of espresso machines drowned out awkward silences. Tyler looked awful. Eyes bloodshot, voice barely steady. "She's been planning this for months," he said finally, sliding an envelope across the table. "You need to see this." Inside were printouts, emails, screenshots, even a floor plan Jenna had drawn. The plan was a blueprint for my house. She'd labeled each room. Master bedroom, ours, office, nursery, guest room, storage for baby. Every square foot accounted for in her fantasy life that used to be mine. My stomach turned. What is this? He rubbed his face. She told me you promised to let us live here after we got married, to save money. Said you'd already agreed. I almost laughed. She what? She said you'd give us the house eventually. That you were lonely and it would make you happy to have family close. She really said that? He nodded miserably. And that's not all. The venue she picked for the wedding, she used your credit card for the deposit. My heart stopped. She doesn't even have my card. She memorized the number from when you let her order something online a few months ago. He showed me the receipts, $3,000 charged to my account. She'd used my card for a non-refundable venue deposit. I sat there shaking. Then I called my credit card company on the spot. They froze the card, flagged the charge as fraud, and assured me they'd handle it. Tyler looked devastated. She's been lying to everyone, Claire. To me, to your parents, to you. She even said you'd promised to give her the house as a wedding gift. I didn't cry. I just nodded, the numbness settling in like frost. Later that evening, Lucas came over. I handed him the folder of evidence. He didn't speak for a long time, just flipped through the pages, shaking his head. Then he said quietly, "You realize this isn't about an office anymore, right?" I did, but admitting it out loud felt like crossing a line I wasn't ready for. That night I posted nothing, said nothing, just waited. The next day, Jenna called me sobbing so hard her voice broke. "You ruined my life. Tyler left me because of you." Then Mom took the phone, voice trembling with moral authority. "I hope you're happy, Claire. You destroyed your sister's future over a room." I hung up. Hours later, Jenna's post went viral in our small town's Facebook circle. Some people care more about money than family. Imagine stealing happiness from your own sister. Hundreds of comments. Strangers defending her, calling me selfish. But then, out of the chaos, one phone call cut through the noise. Grandma Eleanor. Her voice was firmer than I'd heard in years. "Claire," she said, "I did some checking. Did you know your mother did this exact same thing to my sister June back in 1979? I didn't. Apparently, Mom had pressured Great Aunt June into giving up her apartment for her first wedding, then tried to keep it afterward. The entire family had sided with her. Aunt June had eventually moved across the country to escape. "Don't you dare let them do to you what they did to June," Grandma said. "I was quiet back then. I'm not quiet now." Her voice broke halfway through, but she didn't apologize for it. Something in me hardened, quiet, clean, final. For years, I'd told myself I was overreacting, too defensive, too proud. But maybe I was just the first one in my family to say no and mean it. As I hung up, my phone buzzed again. A message from Naomi Blake, a name I didn't recognize right away. "Hi, Claire. You don't know me, but I used to date Lucas. I think your sister's been messaging me, pretending to be your friend. You might want to check that out." The words blurred as I reread them. My sister was reaching out to my boyfriend's ex, pretending to be me. And for the first time in weeks, I realized this wasn't just family drama anymore. This was war. When I opened Naomi's screenshots, my hands actually trembled. The messages were casual at first. Compliments about Lucas, old photos of him from college, then subtle questions. Did he ever talk about Claire's house? Do you know if he'd ever consider living closer to family again? And then one line that made my blood run cold. Claire mentioned she might sell her place soon. She's overwhelmed living alone. I stared at the words, my reflection faint in the phone screen. Overwhelmed, living alone. I hadn't said that to anyone. Ever. That was Jenna's phrasing, word for word. When I showed Lucas the messages, his face went blank. "She's pretending to be you," he said flatly. "She's fishing for information." He looked angry in a way I'd never seen before. Protective, yes, but underneath it, something deeper. A kind of disappointment in humanity itself. I thought the worst had passed. I was wrong. 3 days later, Jenna arrived on my porch with 2 suitcases and a face that could have sold innocence to a jury. "I can't stay with Mom and Dad," she said, tears trembling like they were waiting for their cue. "They're suffocating me. Please, Claire, I just need somewhere quiet to breathe." I told myself it would be for one night. She slept on the couch. At 2:57 a.m., the motion alert went off. The office door handle turned, slow, deliberate, like someone testing a safe. I crept down the hall and found Jenna crouched at the lock with a bobby pin. When I flicked the light on, she blinked like a child caught stealing cookies. "Oh my God," she gasped, hand to chest. "I must have been sleepwalking." "Sleepwalking," I repeated. "With a hairpin?" She stammered, eyes darting, and then doubled down. Stress does weird things to me, Claire. You of all people should understand that. I didn't, not anymore. By morning, she was gone, along with my college coffee mug, a framed photo of us as kids, and the cardigan Grandma knit for me last Christmas. Nothing valuable, just sentimental. The kind of things that leave small, deliberate holes in your peace. That afternoon, my phone rang again. This time it was my manager, voice hesitant. Ava, Claire, are you all right? We've gotten some concerning calls from someone claiming to be your mother. She said you were unstable, having a breakdown. The air went thin. What? She asked for your HR file, my manager said carefully. We obviously didn't give her anything, but you might want to deal with it. Mortification hit me like nausea. That evening, HR sent a formal cease and desist to my parents' address. Dad's response was a single voicemail. You've humiliated this family. If you keep dragging us through the mud, we'll sue you for defamation. For defamation, because I defended my home. I laughed. Sharp, ugly, humorless. Then I stopped laughing and started planning. I opened a new folder on my computer and named it Evidence. Inside it, I built my armor. The ladder footage from the window break-in attempt. The credit card fraud statement. Screenshots of Jenna's texts and fake depression posts. Tyler's written statement confirming the manipulation. Naomi's DMs showing Jenna's impersonation. Grandma Eleanor's note about the 1979 incident with Aunt June. Every lie got a timestamp. Every message got archived. By the end of the night, I had a binder thick enough to make a lawyer nod in approval. And I did exactly that. I sent it to one. Within days, my attorney filed a restraining order against Jenna. At the hearing, Jenna arrived in soft blue, the color of sympathy. She cried through her statement, claimed I'd misunderstood everything. She said she just wanted to heal her relationship with her sister. My attorney didn't even need to speak much. The evidence spoke for itself. The judge's tone was dry, almost bored, when he said, Ms. Monroe, you are to maintain a distance of at least 200 feet. The gavel came down like punctuation on years of manipulation. I exhaled for the first time in what felt like forever. I thought that would be the end. But endings in my family have a way of pretending they're pauses. 2 weeks later, I got a message from an unknown number. Hi, Claire, this is Brian Cole. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Jenna said you were selling the house to us? I froze. She said you wanted to make amends for all the drama, so you're giving us a family discount. We already sent her a $5,000 deposit. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I typed. Meet me tomorrow. I'll show you the truth. When he arrived at the same cafe where I'd met Tyler weeks earlier, I was already there with a manila envelope. He was tall, polite, awkward in that I think I've been conned kind of way. I slid the evidence across the table, the fraud reports, restraining order, and screenshots of Jenna's fake posts. He read in silence, jaw tightening as reality hit him piece by piece. She said you offered this house as a peace offering, he whispered, that your parents were helping. I sighed. My parents believe whatever version of the truth flatters them most. He rubbed his temples. I gave her money. I thought, I know. He left with the folder tucked under his arm and shame all over his face. 3 nights later, Jenna showed up at my actual workplace. Security found her in the lobby, screaming my name, shouting that she was going to take everything I stole from her. When they escorted her out, she kicked the glass door so hard the pane cracked. That incident sealed it. The restraining order became permanent. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. No motion alerts, no late-night calls, just silence, the kind that isn't empty, but earned. Still, sometimes, when I walked down the hallway past the office door, I'd catch myself listening for the faint sound of keys jingling, or the soft scrape of metal against a lock. Peace, I realized, isn't the absence of noise. It's the decision to stop letting certain people make any. For a little while, I convinced myself it was really over. Weeks passed. I worked. I slept. I laughed with Lucas again without checking my phone every few minutes. I even stopped glancing at the camera feed before bed. The house felt peaceful, like it had finally exhaled after holding its breath for months. Then, one Tuesday morning, peace knocked once and let itself in. I came home from a client meeting to find my front door wide open. The hairs on my arms lifted. Every movie, every crime podcast I'd ever heard ran through my brain at once. I didn't step inside. I called 911. While I waited in my car, I opened my camera app. The feed loaded slowly, grainy, but there it was, Mom's car in the driveway. When the police arrived, 2 officers moved toward the house. One gestured for me to stay behind them. We stepped into the living room. The scent of my mother's perfume hit me before I saw her, and then I froze. There, standing in the middle of my office, was Jenna, smiling, pregnant, or appearing to be. The bump under her floral dress looked picture perfect, rounded, deliberate. She turned to me, like this was just a normal Tuesday. "Oh, good, you're home. This is Victor, my husband. We just got married." Victor, who looked at least 40, raised his hand uncertainly. "You must be Claire. Jenna said you were gifting us the house as a wedding present. That's incredible." I stared at him, then at the officers, who exchanged a glance that said, "Yep, this one's going in the report." "Ma'am," one officer said carefully to Jenna, "you're violating a restraining order." Jenna's smile wavered. "That's impossible. This is my home. Tell them, Mom." Mom stepped out from behind the doorway, arms crossed. "This is a family matter, officers. My daughter promised her sister this house when she married. We're just taking measurements." I handed one officer a folder I'd been carrying in my bag out of habit, restraining order papers, proof of ownership, and a printout from the security feed showing them entering 10 minutes earlier. That was the moment Jenna's charm cracked. "Don't you dare do this," she screamed. "You can't arrest a pregnant woman. You'll be endangering my baby." The officer's voice didn't budge. "Ma'am, you need to come with us." They cuffed her gently, reading her rights as she started sobbing about betrayal and family. Mom followed her out, shouting about injustice and how I'd lost my soul. That left me and Victor standing in a house that suddenly felt haunted by living people. He looked at me, pale, voice trembling. I don't understand. She said this was her home, that you were renting from her." "She lied," I said quietly. "She's been lying for months." He nodded slowly, then whispered, "She told me she was a real estate developer, that she owned several properties. She said she needed an investor for a renovation project, $50,000 to flip this house." I felt my knees weaken. "You gave her $50,000? He nodded. "And she opened 3 credit cards in my name for the business." I took a breath and told him everything about the scams, the restraining order, the fake pregnancy rumors. When I showed him my evidence binder, he looked like he'd aged 10 years in 5 minutes. "I thought she was finally the one," he said softly. He left quietly, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt pity, because I recognized that stunned disbelief. I'd lived it too. The next morning, the district attorney's office called. They were already processing charges: fraud, identity theft, criminal trespass, and violation of a restraining order. That same day, Grandma Eleanor called with a different kind of update. "I hired a private investigator," she said. "I wanted to know how deep this goes." What the PI found was worse than anything we'd imagined. Jenna had created a fake real estate website using photos of my house and others from Zillow. She'd been posing as a developer online, collecting down payments from multiple men, at least 4. She'd filed loan applications using my address and forged tax documents listing herself as homeowner. She wasn't pregnant at all. The belly was prosthetic, and the ultrasounds she'd shown people were stock images downloaded online. Over 3 months, she'd scammed roughly 200,000. When I heard the number, I couldn't even react. There wasn't room left inside me for outrage. That night, Mom called me from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Her voice was shaking, but not with remorse, just panic. "Claire, please, she's your sister. You have to pay for her lawyer." "I'm not paying for a criminal defense attorney," I said flatly. "She's pregnant!" "She's wearing silicone, Mom." Silence, then the dial tone. The next day, a letter arrived from Dad, typed, signed, and delivered like a corporate memo. "As of this date, you are no longer considered part of this family. We are removing you from all inheritance matters effective immediately." I read it twice, folded it neatly, and slipped it into a drawer. Then I wrote my own letter in reply. "Please forward this to your lawyer for record keeping. P.S. I've attached my therapist's invoice. Consider it your contribution to the family legacy." 2 weeks later, the news broke publicly. Local woman arrested in elaborate real estate fraud scheme. The photo beneath the headline was one I recognized: Jenna's graduation portrait. Overnight, all the voices that had once called me selfish went silent. No one posted heart emojis anymore. No one defended her. Just quiet. Cold, guilty quiet. When Victor called again, it wasn't to vent. It was to thank me. "For telling the truth," he said. "You saved me from losing everything." I didn't know what to say, so I told him the truth too. She almost took everything from me too. My job, my sanity, my peace. He laughed sadly. She almost took mine too. That night, I sat in my office, lights dim, laptop humming, and realized that even in all this chaos, this space had become something sacred. Not just a workplace, not even a fortress. A line in the sand that said, "Here, I exist. I decide." And somehow that made every lock, every camera, every sleepless night worth it. I was no longer defending a room. I was defending my peace. The headline traveled faster than I could refresh my phone. Local woman arrested in multi-state real estate fraud scheme. Underneath was Jenna's mugshot, the same face that used to giggle at cartoons beside me on Saturday mornings. The story spread through the community like wildfire. Every relative, every neighbor, every friend of Mom's suddenly found something else to talk about. For the first time in my life, the family group chat went completely silent. No guilt messages, no accusations, just quiet. But it wasn't relief I felt. It was a hollow kind of grief. Not for Jenna, but for what we could have been if love in our family hadn't always come with conditions. A few days later, Grandma Eleanor came over with her usual bag of lemon bars and that tiny smile that meant she'd been waiting for me to exhale first. She didn't ask about the arrest. She just poured tea and said, "You remind me of my sister June." I looked up. "She never got her apartment back, you know," Grandma said softly. "But she got her peace. You managed both." Her words landed with a strange weight. Not pride, not pity. Something deeper. A recognition between survivors. Victor Hayes, the man Jenna had scammed, called soon after. He sounded tired but calm. "I'm working with the DA," he said. "She opened 7 accounts in my name, but I'll be all right. I just wanted to say thank you." He didn't need to explain. Then Tyler, her ex-fiancé, reached out. He'd seen the news and wanted to apologize for ever doubting me. He said he was moving to Oregon to start over, that he was finally done letting guilt dictate his choices. I told him I understood, because I did. We'd both learned the same hard lesson. Sometimes the only way to survive a family like ours is to let it burn without you. Then came the letter, official-looking envelope, my father's name in block print. "Your mother and I have decided that any communication will now go through our attorney. We consider this matter closed. We hope you can live with what you've done." I didn't even finish reading it. I just tucked it beneath the letter I'd sent him weeks earlier, the one with my therapy invoice. 2 pieces of paper, stacked like a before and after photo. The DA's office called again to confirm the trial date. Jenna was being charged with multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and criminal trespass, plus violating a restraining order. She'd been denied bail after the medical report revealed she wasn't pregnant. Not even close. The bump she'd been flaunting was silicone and foam, ordered online for $89.99. The absurdity of it hit me later that night. My sister had built an empire of lies on props and borrowed names. And the worst part? She'd almost pulled it off. When the story made it to television, I didn't watch. But Grandma did. She called after the segment aired. "They showed your office, she said. It looked beautiful. Peaceful." "It finally is," I told her. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Claire, you broke the cycle. I spent my whole life watching this family eat itself alive over control and appearances. You stopped it." Her voice cracked then, and I realized she was crying, not from sadness, but relief. That Sunday, Grandma came for dinner. I made pasta, and for once, the conversation didn't circle back to Jenna or my parents. We talked about her travels, about the places she'd never had the courage to revisit, about the love she found too late, and the regrets that still stung. When she left, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "Freedom feels strange at first, doesn't it?" I smiled. "Yeah, but it feels like breathing again." Life got quieter after that. No late-night calls, no family interventions, no one measuring my office for curtains. The cameras stayed, but I stopped checking them compulsively. Each morning, I'd brew coffee and sit at my desk. The same one Jenna tried to steal, the same one my parents dismissed as just a room. Now it felt sacred. The walls held my work, not her Pinterest boards. The shelves carried my books, not her bridal binders. And the air, once heavy with confrontation, was finally light enough to fill my lungs. Sometimes, though, I still think about Jenna. I wonder if she believes her own lies, if she'll ever understand how much damage she did, not just to me, but to herself. Maybe she'll change, maybe she won't, but that's not my story anymore. To anyone who's ever felt trapped in a family that mistakes love for ownership, you are allowed to say no. You are allowed to set boundaries, to protect your peace, to refuse to trade your sanity for someone else's comfort. I learned the hard way that family isn't defined by blood or guilt. It's defined by respect, by consent, by the quiet people who show up without taking something from you. For me, that's Grandma. It's Lucas. It's the friends who checked in when everyone else turned away. That's family. I don't know if I'll ever sell this house. Maybe someday I'll start over somewhere else. Somewhere my last name doesn't carry whispers. But for now, I stay. Because this home, this office, this small world I defended, it's proof that I can stand my ground and still find peace. I didn't win. I survived. And sometimes that's the closest thing to victory you'll ever need.